Hello and welcome everyone. How you doing today on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in sunny Northern California? My name is Daniel Alexa. I am a master certified life coach with the ICF and also a certified interpersonal hypnotherapist. My job, my goal, my passion in life is helping people who feel like they've been living small to reconnect with their gifts and rise above and lead a much fuller, bigger life beyond what other people or maybe society or maybe even culture tells them is normal. That's what transcending is all about, and that is why I founded Transcendent Living. Today, we're going to talk about radical ownership, particularly radical ownership of life. A lot of the books that I read, the things that I study are about reconnecting to a much larger wisdom, much larger awareness. A book that came into my radar recently is called The Power of Your Supermind by Vernon Howard. And this book is 49 years old. And I am stunned at the power and insight in it. It's a wonderful book for self work. It's a fantastic book for people in the coaching field. Then it comes from a very different perspective because it's not written for coaches, it's written for individuals to take a hard look at their life and how they're showing up in the world and what can they do to change it if they're not happy. And happiness is an internal state that should not change according to or based on what's happening outside of us. And I want to pull up page 58 of this book and read a quick passage here. As Mr. Howard talks about getting connected to self, on page 58, he's talking about if you're in a state of disharmony, return again and again to the two most valuable questions you can ever ask yourself. Number one, what is my actual condition? Number two, how can I change it? Classic questions. Essentially, where are you now? What do you want to do about it? If you're not enjoying it, what do you want to do to change it, or how can you change it? What's in your control? And then he makes a further note regarding the actual condition. Try to see yourself as you really are, not according to habitual assumptions. And that's where I want to talk about today, those habitual assumptions that are learned behaviors, their judgments, their habits, their comparisons to others, or maybe comparisons into where we think we should be at a certain period of time. And when we start comparing ourselves to external events, things going on around us, or the perspectives of others going on around us, we forget to connect to our own internal wisdom, our own internal compass, to see if we are okay in this moment. Typically, we are. When we stop worrying about everything else around us, I see this in the executives that I work with. It's a very common experience. There are all the concerns of the business. There's the concerns of life and family and all of those things that get us jarred from being. And we start shifting who we are to meet others or to take care of others and forget that we've got to be okay with ourselves. So these judgments, habits, comparisons, they're based on old memories. They are learned things. And anything that has been learned can be unlearned. They didn't say it was easy. It said it could be unlearned. And the question when we're doing this self-assessment, what is my actual condition? How can I change it? Maybe in the space an old memory starts coming up that reminds us of an earlier place in time, an earlier comparison that is in some way relevant to what we're going through right now. The question isn't, or the solution is not to give power to that old event, allowing it to predict and predetermine who you are being in this moment and how you're going to respond. Rather, ask yourself, what does that memory have to do with me now? What does that belief have to do with me now? What does that judgment have to do with me now? And that's where we begin learning, coming into the present moment to create forward. So these old things, They've been ingrained into our mind over our mind belief system over years of repetition, typically. And they become a little bit of a path of least resistance in our neural network. An event happens, reminds us of something else, and the neurons fire to take us to a place of either action or reflection, or maybe stir up an old belief system that's wired back in the subconscious. It's been conditioned by habit. We start feeling down, we start beating ourselves up for it. We come into judgment. But we can stop it. We are not automatons. Even though a lot of our subconscious operating system, the thing that helps us breathe, that keeps our heart beating, all of those systems are hardwired in the brain. And those we probably don't want to change consciously. But some of the other stuff around belief systems and emotions and triggers can be changed when we start taking a hard look at ourselves and understanding how they're driving us in the moment. And notice I am not talking about where they came from. That is the space of therapy. As a hypnotherapist, I can dive into that. As a coach, I stay here in the present moment. And I actually find for the majority of the time, staying in the present moment and creating forward is more powerful than reflecting on the past and where something came from. That's over and done. If we go there, if we're going to get an understanding on it, great. But it's more important to be here now. You can't change what happened back there. You can only change your thoughts about it. Where are you doing that? Right here, right now. So if you find yourself in one of these moments of not being in ownership, feeling like things are out of control and your life is out of control, how can you take charge of it? How can you get back? I'm going to get to that in 1 second. The first thing we need to think about, going back to that second question from Vernon Howard, what can I do to change it? Essentially, what's in your control? Let's talk about what is in your control right here, right now, in any point in life. First off, where does your control stop? On the physical level, it stops right here at the edge of your skin. That's as far as your control goes on a physical level. You can push a button, you can push it in. Doesn't mean the button is going to work. You have no control over the functionality of the button. You can drive your car and steer it. You can turn the wheel. That doesn't mean that all the linkage between that wheel and the wheels on your car is going to function the way it is supposed to function. Sometimes they break. You can push on the brake, which is your skin pushing against your sock, pushing against your shoe, pushing against the brake, and taking further action down into the mechanics of the car. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work the way it should. Sometimes there are malfunctions mechanically. Your control ends right here. And we can also talk about your thoughts on the non-physical level. You have control over your thoughts and your feelings. They do not control you. So coming back into what am I thinking about? How do I change it? I I will allow a little bit of grace in because of my belief spiritually that our thoughts do create our reality. But if we're not in control of our thoughts and we're beating ourselves up, telling ourselves we're not good enough, what reality is that creating? One in which we are subjected to the experience of not being good enough, not being in control. So as we come back to center here right now, you are okay. You are in control. Take that control, take radical ownership in this moment, and know that you're here creating forward. If you don't like where you're at, don't like what you're experiencing, you can choose differently rather than choosing from old habits. And now let's talk about a way to do that. And for this presentation today, I created an acronym that I will be presenting more and more now in the future. This came to me today sitting with these concepts, and I call it the SOAR method. SOAR. When you notice yourself in a spin like this, stop. Just stop and come to center. Don't continue in the whirlwind. Even think about being in a tornado or being in a spin. You don't have your feet solidly grounded to make a choice, to be able to move confidently to the next step. Or wobbly. So come to a stop. Then observe what's really happening in you and around you. Without judgment, just notice what's happening. Then we go to A. Ask yourself, how is this experience relevant? How are my thoughts relevant? What can I do differently in this moment? Or what can I do to make a difference moving forward? And then finally, respond. Take that new action, make that different choice, and go forward. Continue, wash, rinse, repeat. Keep going. You will find that you will be creating a more focused, intentional life that will be taking you toward your goals rather than feeling you are at the spin and in a victim mode of the things happening around you. That is a choice. Events happen around us we have no control over because our control stops right here. But what can you do to not be at the effect end of that cause? How do we shift that lens so that you can be the cause affecting the world and creating your reality going forward? And that is what I help individuals do, to take themselves to the point of cause, creating the effects out in the world, rippling out with massive expansion in life, affecting positively, ideally, the lives of others and creating even more abundance, happiness. Happiness happens inside and emanates outside. Come in control of your feelings, come in control of your thoughts, take control of your physical body, and begin affecting change. My name is Daniel Olexa. I help individuals, gifted individuals, who feel like they have been playing small at the effect of the world, to come into cause, reawaken, remember their gifts so that they may begin creating forward. Feel free to reach out to me at Daniel at Transcendent Living. Looking forward to talking to you soon.